Luzerne County in northeast Pennsylvania was ground zero for one of the biggest judicial travesties of the 21st century. The scandal involved two judges who received millions of dollars in payment from the developer of a for-profit juvenile detention center that housed some of the same kids the judges ruled delinquent. A new documentary called Kids for Cash, taking its name from the scandal, goes behind the headlines and attempts to tell the previously untold stories of the judges and the kids who were impacted by the scheme. It wasn't as simple as Cash for Kids.
No, it wasn't. That was a great line, a great term. It literally is the kind of things that movies are made out of. Books are written about. It's a coined phrase. It's not copyrightable because it's such an outlandish phrase, and yet that's what it became. And it was that's the whole of the story that people think they know.
So then this story represents something else, something greater. It doesn't just represent a couple of corrupt judges, does it? This is something about a broader system in the United States. Well,
it is. It's actually it's a much bigger story all the way around. First of all, these guys are going through a federal prosecution. The story is told from the villain and the victim side, which is a story that's rarely ever shown, if at all. And so you get to understand what it's like to be on both sides of that kind of a story or a prosecution, whether it be prosecution by the federal government or prosecution by the community. Either way, you get to understand what that's like. And frankly, there's carnage everywhere. No one's safe from the carnage that's left behind.
And one of the people that really was impacted directly is one of the students that he put away. And we have another clip from one of the students, and this is a really sad story, one of several you tell throughout the movie. Let's see her story.
I was in 8th grade. I was 13. Me and this girl, we used to be friends. She was sitting there calling me a slut and a whore and I can't stand you because we weren't friends anymore. So I threw a volleyball at her. Then when she walked past me, she did one of those hair kind of flips in my face, and then I had it was over. We ended up fighting. They took me to the office with the police officer, called my father, told him to come get his crazy daughter out of their school. She's starting trouble.
Your kid was locked up for slapping a girl. It shouldn't have never went any farther than the local magistrate if the school wasn't satisfied with suspending her for 3 days. Not out to a juvenile judge. And then to find out it was all from greed.
This lady, she pulled my dad back and she grabbed my arm and she's like, come with me.
So greed, judges banging the gavel because of the greed perhaps, and also schools that bought into the zero tolerance policy and put police officers, probation officers in schools. This is all the big potent mix that's part of the documentary.
It is, and when you realize that since Columbine, we literally have had the zero tolerance policy for kids that do something wrong. We don't allow kids to be kids or learn from their experience as kids. And instead of schools helping to a kid that may have some issues and stuff, we instead say, you have consequences. And that's how we're going to teach you, by these consequences, except that a kid's brain's not fully developed until they're in their mid-20s. Well, I didn't know that even as a parent, but I know it now. And so schools use the system to offload kids that they're having any kind of issues with at all.
And this is a nationwide thing, not just Luzerne County.
It's a nationwide thing. As a matter of fact, in Pennsylvania alone, across the entire state, since Columbine, when juvenile crime has been coming down even before then, school-based arrests in Pennsylvania alone rose by 300%. What are we doing?
Wow.
And who's asking the questions? The system is so private that no one knows what really goes on behind it, quite frankly.
And what are you hoping then to achieve by putting this movie out?
Well, I mean, I'm a parent of two teenagers, quite frankly, and I know what it's like to be a parent of teenagers today. It's a really difficult time to be a kid. It really is, with all the various distractions and so forth. And kids are at the disadvantage because they're kids. Like we have one of the girls in our film says, no one listened because we were kids. We have this mentality anymore that, if it's a kid saying it, we don't believe it. We don't believe the kid. And so this is more of an adult problem than it is a kid's problem.
Now,
adults are overreacting.
One statistic you put out at the very end of the film that stuck with me is, $10,800 per student in the United States?
And $88,000 to incarcerate them. That's what's happened.
Wow. Is that just a scale thing because there's so many more students in school than incarcerated?
Well, it's where our priority is. Look, we have more adults and kids locked up in this country than any other country in the world. Why is that?